Hi everyone, my name is Allireza and I'm a commercial director at Sodexo Benefit and Reward Services. I've been manager for 15 years with driving small teams and larger teams. And during these 15 years, I have come to a significant conclusion. And the conclusion is not groundbreaking at any level. It's just quite basic human understanding. And it is about that there is a correlation between revenue and people's well-being. So when I started working at Sodexo, I went straight 2 years ago, I went straight to my boss and I told him, you know what? We need to create a platform that can measure well-being and correlate it to revenue. And he went to his boss in Paris, and here I am. The problem we are trying to solve is basically that companies, they have a lot of issues when it comes to sickness leave, attrition, how people come and go in companies when they start, when they leave, engagement, of course. All these things are connected to cost or revenues. But there is not a single way to really connect revenue to these issues, how to proactively try to minimize sick leave or attrition at your company and increase engagement so you can create more revenue. So when at the end of the day, when you're sitting in a boardroom or a management room and you have a profit of 5 million crowns and you want to invest them, either give them back to your shareholders or invest them in your people's well-being, the decision is quite easy because we're not here for charity, we're here to make money for shareholders. And basically what happens is that those money 100 times goes to your shareholders rather than investing them in people, because there is no way to really connect the correlation, create a correlation between if I invest 1 million of these 5 millions in my people's well-being, then it will come back tenfold. Today companies work with 3 different types of analytics. 80% of them, of course, work with just compliance reporting. And that's basically, well, how much money is everybody earning? Is there a difference between ages, difference between gender? These are the type of reportings they do. 80% of the companies is where they are. And then we have, of course, 5% who report that they have deployed scorecards. They have enough data to deploy some kind of a scorecard for the manager to be able to describe what is going on right now or what has happened. 8% report that they have usable data to be able to predict some issues at the company. And 8% have reported that they work with actionable data. Which is prescriptive, basically, not just saying this has happened, this is going to happen, and what should I do about it? So this is the third step. And of course, the higher up you come, the more there is more business value for me to be able to predict sick leave or other issues at company that could really change our success factor. So what do we do about this? Well, again, nothing is quite simple there, what we do. We measure data around your well-being, and we use a psychosocial health survey, which has 15 years of research behind it, but we also use behavior data correlations. We do some analytic machine learning models on the data to understand it. What does it mean? So we arrange, basically we take some text, we convert them to data, and then from data back to text again, because we want to give you insights, prescriptive data, prescriptive insight about what you should do about your problems. And then, of course, solution. So now I know I have a problem, I can solve it in a way, and then we continue to measure to actually show that what you do has an effect on your revenue or your business. We call our product weekly. It's all about continuity. It's about measuring all the time to understand your people and what they need. When I started to work with this 2 years ago, in one of my first meetings, I said that we need to focus on the consumer. The end user is the most important part. Because if they don't answer all these questions, we don't have any data to show to anybody. So with this, we want to try to create an environment when people really feel, your employees, feel that they can speak their mind so that we can act on facts. So when I talk about end user, we have done a lot of research during these 2 years, and we found a few things that are important. One of them is, of course, a chatbot. To ask the question in a chatbot format, that increases the threat that I feel as a human being to answer questions about my life, and it makes it easier for us to gather data. Feedback and visualization is extremely important for the end user, because if you answer a lot of questions, you want to have instant feedback. What does it mean for me? What have I just answered about? How will this affect me, my company, and my life? And of course, anonymity is very important, and anonymous communication. So what the end users have told us is that basically they want us to create the channel between them and their boss so they can talk with their boss and or manager anonymously. And another thing is, of course, Me Too. With the Me Too ongoing around the world, it's important to create a direct channel for reporting of different types of misconducts, sexual violence, and of course, bullying. But one of the most single important facts when it comes to consumer and end user is about anonymity. It's the key. So we have worked a lot with this, and I will come back to it, how we're working with this. Of course, insight, where we talked about the 4 corners, the insight part to interpreting the data from text back to data, and then from data back to, again, to something that I can understand, both for the client as well for the end user. All right, so of course we will have a dashboard for you for the clients to understand how the company is doing, how people are doing, what are they saying, what are the needs in the company. So all of you listening to this, seeing this, hearing me now, probably a lot of smart people. We, as a data scientist or an engineer, we love data, we like graphs, we like columns of data, but most people don't. And that's why, again, we are trying to take the data, create a form, use our words to describe for you what is most important for you to focus on. So, back to anonymity, how do we solve that issue? Well, it comes back to our pulsing, because we send out the questions every week. So every week you get different type of questions. And to create a way of anonymity, one part of it is to basically adapt the question to the person. It creates both relevance, so the questions you are getting is actually more relevant for you based on what you have been asked before, as well as what kind of a question are we asking your team, and their responses affect what we ask you. This way, we create an individual set of questions for you every week, so it differs from your co-workers. And it will be kind of impossible for your boss to guess who got which question this week. Another part is basically about filling the blanks. So we want every week be able to create a full dashboard for the client to be able to see how their employees are performing. So this way, by asking different questions to everyone, we get the whole picture of the company every week. But all good for now, but the most important thing is about predictions. Is it possible really to predict sickness rate, attrition, who is going to leave my company, when? Because that costs a lot of money. Other business KPIs, again, like revenue, profit, and engagement, of course. We have started already looking at that. We have a few pilots running right now with a few thousand people answering the questions every week. So we're starting to gather a lot of data now. What we see is that it's possible already to basically, from social support from my manager, if I think that I'm being fairly and respected at the company, as well as if I'm satisfied with work and recognized, we can predict quality of your leadership. So emotional demands is another important thing at work, because if the emotional demands are very high, it will create a lot of stress and it can really lead to burnout. So we can predict emotional demands from looking at your stress level. If you get social support from your colleagues, it's extremely important to predict emotional demands. And if you have role conflicts. And burnout. I mean, burnout, everybody wants to know if it's possible to predict if somebody is going to be burned out. That we can actually deduct from trouble of sleeping, which is quite interesting. So, how much you sleep, your quality of sleep, reflects if you will actually be burned out or not. Of course, there are other things like emotional demands, stress, and self-rated health. But a month ago, of course, these are based on everybody has answered the set of questions, and we have looked at it and then tried to find predictive material in it. But can we predict from how you behave your well-being? We send out a pulse every Monday. So every Monday morning, you get a pulse with 10 to 12 questions about your well-being. And looking at this, looking at which people actually responding on the first half of the week and which people respond on the second half of the week, we looked at the data and saw that stress is higher for those who responded on the second half of the week. They feel less influence at work, they feel less involved, and their self-estimated health is lower. So basically, we can use this data to minimize dropouts, or go the other way around, which is actually look at which group is responding to the questions on the second half of the week and decide if they're stressed, if they have influence, involvement, and about their health. A few years ago, there was a research at Harvard University where they actually looked at GPS data. They wanted to see if it's possible to predict mood disorder and depression looking at your GPS data. And so they selected a group of people, and these people, they looked at the GPS data as well as they sent these people to a psychologist to being evaluated. And the GPS data showed with a better accuracy if they were actually having mood disorder and depression than a psychologist. So I think in the future, when we go to a psychologist and starting to lay down on their sofa, they will say, "Stop, can I please see your GPS data?" Because it shows in more accuracy to if you have a mood disorder and depression. So in a few years, we will have the largest data set around human behavior and organizational behavior. Because right now we have a few thousand people answering the questions, but within a few years it will be maybe 200,000-300,000 people answering these questions every week. And not just looking at what you actually answer, but also on your behavior around, because we save also data about when you answer, how you answer, at what time of the day you answer, And if we can start also to actually gather data, GPS data and other data that is already in your phone and other health data, all these things together can be an extremely powerful tool to predict and help you understand both yourself as well as your surroundings. I mean, it doesn't work that I go up one day in the morning and I say I'm going to quit my job. It will happen like that. But what has happened before has its own story. So if you look at somebody who goes up in the morning and says, well, today I'm going to divorce my wife and leave my family, the story has already 2 years ago. And there are a lot of sign predictors that can actually show that this person will leave his family or her family in 2 years. But we are so obsessed with what we have in front of us that we don't always see the signs. So, and again, back that we are, as humans, extremely complex. But when it comes to our behavior, we're quite predictable. So for me, the future and for what we are doing is about actually using the data to help every person to understand themselves a little bit better and understand an environment and their surroundings a little bit better, to be able to communicate in a new way. Exactly how that new way will be, I haven't still cracked the code on yet, but I hope to be able to do that. Thank you. Just rounding up with one last thing. For us, it's not, what we are doing is not just a digital employee survey. It's more than that. It is not also a substitute for a HR manager or a CEO with too much on their plate. It is about really using your data to improve your business. Thank you very much.